Welcome to my stories. I am glad you are here. We are on this journey together. Love is like birds, very beautiful, and beautiful love leads to a beautiful story. This is a story about a beautiful daughter who was born to a god who takes care of the 5 elements on earth. The king and the queen had 5 daughters and descended the elements to them. The first daughter, Ether as earth, Sane as space, Ekma as fire, Velma as wind, and Blue as water. Each of the 5 daughters was given their respective mystical abilities. One fine day, the king and the queen decided that all 5 of their children were ready to take on their duties and were given a strict set of rules to be abided by at any cost. All of them were descended to earth. Let's see how Blue found love. A few weeks passed as Blue was watching and guarding the activities on earth, unaware while lying on a waterbed in a raging ocean. She was tipped by a fishing ship. After the turbulence, she suddenly changed into a visible form. Thus, 3 men noticed her visibility, was stunned by the ability of Blue to float on the ocean. The 3 men began to be amazed by Blue's magical ability and start to throw all kinds of questions towards Blue. Upon hearing their questions, Blue begins to explain her magical powers. During their conversation, Blue began to direct her attention to the person named Chris. Suddenly, she became aware of her parents' commandments. She quickly began to work her magical powers on the 3 men, and they immediately fell into a deep sleep. Before falling asleep, Chris barely managed to ask her name. She softly answered, "Blue is my name." Then she disappeared in thin air. 3 days later, 3 men were awakened from their sleep. Then they decided to head home. Immediately after that, Chris was continuously dreaming of a beautiful woman he ever met, which is Blue, and thinking it is just a dream or reality. Whilst watching and guarding the activities on earth, Blue gazes in thoughts how it will be as a normal human. Thus, Blue decided to seek advice from Heather. She warned Blue that she should not at any cost overrule the rule from their parents. They will be very disappointed if they knew about her feelings and what she attempting to do. Then she left the place. The conversation was overheard by Ekma and Velma. They waited till their sister left and went to talk to Blue. "My dear sister, Blue, do not pressure yourself. For all little things you have the right to follow your instinct. And I and Velma will always be here for you," and left. A week passed and disaster struck with great force in the place Chris lived, known as a tsunami. The whole place was torn into pieces, and the trees, buildings, and car drifted away in the strong current. Everyone was in fear and terrified. This is the first tsunami that took place after 100 years. Chris, a brilliant man, was also struggling to save himself. Suddenly, a wave measuring 30 feet high was heading towards him. For a moment, he knew that he would never survive this day. The thought of Blue then began to arouse his mind. At the moment, the 30-foot wave switched direction, and he was saved. Chris was amused by how he was still alive and barely had even a small scratch. After the tsunami ended, he decided to head to his friend's house a few hundred kilometers away to see how he was doing. During the journey, he stopped by a 24-hour coffee shop, and the thought of how he survived the tsunami was disturbing his mind. Suddenly, Blue appeared in front of him. At a glance, he thought that it was just an illusion, but it was true that Blue was in front of him. He was shocked and said, "You do exist? I knew I wasn't dreaming." Chris began to strike up a conversation with Blue. He then asked her if she was real and visible to others. She replied, "I couldn't resist the thought of you. You constantly think of me. That's why I came to communicate with you. So from now on, I will be visible only to you and not to others." They talked all night long. They both were deeply getting to know one another. They did not know they are creating an everlasting bond of love between them. The moment was magical to Chris as he began to fall so deeply, madly in love with Blue. After that, Blue could not resist spending all of her days in the night meeting Chris in his new apartment. Chris and Blue began to experience a love that was blossoming greater each time they met. Heather began to notice that the sister Blue is not performing her duties, as she was always absent from her side. Heather and Sunny went to visit Blue and asked Blue, "Why you are so neglecting your responsibility been given from our parents?" Blue explained that she was blinded by a feeling called love. "His name is Chris. He treats me very well and is very honest with me. I am deeply in love with him." Heather warned Blue that she will be punished severely for her action and for neglecting her duties as the goddess of water. Sunny also agreed with Heather and advised Blue not to pursue what she's doing now and get back to her duty before things get beyond her hands. Before leaving, both sisters gave a big hug to Blue as a sign of love and care. Once Heather and Sunny left, Ekma and Velma came to see Blue, and they said, "We know about your love, and we know that Heather and Sunny disapprove it, but we are here to support you, Blue. You can love. You can continue your feelings towards Chris. But do not forget, You are the goddess of water. You have to continue your duties been given by our parents. Ekma and Velma gave Blue a warm hug and said these last words to her before they left. Live your dream to the fullest. Blue immediately went to meet the love of her life. She thought it was time for her to explain to Chris everything. Blue explained that her parents ascended her as a caretaker with a strict condition. He listened calmly, but he did not respond to anything or did not say a word while she was talking. After a while, Chris turned his sight towards Blue, looking into her eyes and said, "Blue, I love you, and I know you love me too. No one can stop us from loving each other, and I'm willing to sacrifice anything to have you." Blue was speechless. She was carried away by his tender love and care. Upon gazing at one another's eyes with endless affection, Chris and Blue concluded that nothing can come in their way to separate them apart. Chris requested Blue to blend in with the people around him. He introduced Blue to his friends, his neighbors, and his colleague. Day passed and Blue began to experience a mixed opinions about these people all. She began to notice that there was a greed, selfishness, jealousy, and many other characteristics. Even though people are different, but she knew Chris very well. He was kind and honest to her. This quality of Chris makes her feel much more in love with him. She began to realize that not all of them are same like the one she met, but she's still very happy where she is now. On one fine day, Chris decided to take Blue out for a jolly stroll near his apartment that he lived in, to distract her away from her pernicious mixed thoughts on the people around him. As closer they get, they felt immense volume of heat, and few meters away they could see a chaos. Everyone was yelling for help. The apartment was engulfed by fire. Everyone seemed helpless as the fire was raging higher and fierce with every second. In just a few minutes, the entire apartment was engulfed by the fire. Suddenly, Chris heard a child's voice yearning for help as the poor child was trapped alone. Without even a second thought, Chris turned to Blue and said, "I need to rescue the poor child," and he rushed into the apartment to save the child. Thank you for listening till the end of part 1, Blue, My Love. Please click on the following video for part 2.